Sunday, April 26th, and we are going to go on a fun dive today, a dive that I call my Zen dive. It'll be the first time this season going out to go and see the wreck of the Robert Gaskin. And guess what? I'm going to take the GoPro so that you guys can come along on the dive with me. And at the end, if we're feeling good, we'll probably drift off and go see the ghost boat circuit before heading back to the scuba park. I'm Diver Dave. I've still got coffee. This would be a good spot for a coffee sponsor. And you know, we're about to get into it. Actually, even better would be 613 Dive Coffee. Now we're talking. Let's go. All right, welcome back to the Dive Lab. Of course, I'm Diver Dave, and now we're going to talk about my fun dive yesterday out to the wreck of the Robert Gaskin. It is one of my more fun dives that I like to do to start the season off, now that I've got 10 or 12 shakedown dives under my belt, and I'm starting to feel comfortable back in my Liberty CCR. Plus, the water is getting a little warmer. I think we're somewhere around 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and so that's now good enough for me to start veering outside of the park. Quick side note to all the divers watching, what are your fun dives? Post them in the comments below. I'd love to check them out. But before we go too far into this video, just to add to the disclaimer that I just showed, that while the wreck of the Robert Gaskin is certainly within open water diver recreational limits, being at 60, 65 feet, I mean, technically maybe the stern is at 70 if your wrist was in the sand, this certainly is what I would consider an advanced dive from shore. And I don't mean advanced open water. I'm saying that the buddy team going out there should be self-reliant divers. And so based on my last self-reliance video, which by the way is now 613 Dive's most popular video, so thank you to everyone for watching and commenting and of course subscribing, much appreciated. But based on that buddy group heading out from shore to the Gaskin needs to treat this as an advanced self-reliance dive. Gas redundancy, gas plans, of course, navigational awareness for both buddy divers, because I'll tell you, in the middle of summer and the visibility goes down, you can lose your buddy within seconds. On a busy summer day, the last thing you want to do is have an unexpected surface out in the middle of the river. And on top of all that, you've got a wicked surface current potentially pushing you east down the river. I don't know if that's east, but we'll assume it's east. Also, keep in mind, standing at Centeen Park, which is the launch point, those Gaskin buoys look very, very close. It's uber deceiving. And typically when I'm planning this dive with a self-reliant diver and I'm taking them out there for their first time, we actually take a tour around to Blockhouse Island so that we can actually get a different perspective in terms of the point of view. And that really shows the length of that shore dive. And I'll post a picture right here. You can see from that picture, it is actually a fairly long shore swim. On a good day, 20 minutes of finning. Hey Dave, it only takes me 6 minutes. I mean, I just can't win with the local DPV crowd. The last third of that finning, depending on the day, could be in very strong current. And by the way, there's a line, but not all the way to the wreck. The line actually stops at 53 feet, and there's a metal pin in the ground that you'll see a little bit later in the video. But from there, you have to go and find the Gaskin. Last point I'll make on this is that this dive should be treated as a virtual overhead, and heading to the surface in the middle of the river should be treated as an option of absolute last resort. Boats, jet skis, and of course, the big ships in the channel. I personally would not want to surface out there. And you might be wondering, hey Dave, I don't understand that term virtual overhead. And my response is going to be, well, that means that you probably have not received the correct training in order to execute this dive safely from shore. But that's the bad news. The good news is the wreck of the Robert Gaskin makes an incredible charter dive for newly certified open water divers. The wreck itself, like I said, 60 to 70 feet of water, tons of swim throughs, very open. It is just a fun dive, and honestly, I remember my first time on that wreck, and it was a pretty cool experience. Oh boy, here is a diver inside the Gaskin, clearly contributing to the poor viz on that day. Horizontal trim? No. Fin control, I mean, their fins are touching the bottom, so that's also a no. Buoyancy control? I'm just going to assume probably not. But hey, they've got their whistle, and they're giving the thumbs up, so they must be having fun. But clearly, this diver needs work. And even better, there's already a local charter business, Brockville Adventure Center. Reach out to Helen and tell her Diver Dave sent you. I know her and her staff will take care of you. And so now let's just take a minute to pay our respects to the wreck of the Robert Gaskin. The Robert Gaskin started its life way back in 1863 and was built by Charles W. Jenkins and launched out of Kingston, Ontario. It was 132 feet in length with a beam of 26 feet. And in its latter days, it was serving as a barge and platform for the raising of another ship, a railway car steam ferry called the William Armstrong, which had sunk on the American side of the channel. And by accident during the salvage operation, one of the steam-filled pontoons that was being used to raise the William Armstrong let loose and rocketed to the surface like a torpedo, striking the Gaskin in the bow and causing it to sink. Not good. At that point, the Gaskin had sank so close to the Armstrong that they had to refocus their salvage operation to re-raise the Gaskin, and as they started to tow it back to shore, it sank a few more times. Where it sank for the third time on November 23rd, 1889, where it now sits in 60 feet of water just off the coast of Brockville, Ontario. It's been sitting there on the bottom since 1889. Wow. Pretty cool that after all these years, the Robert Gaskin is still providing a great dive experience for our diving community. And like I said, for me, this was kind of like one of my first real wreck dives back when I was a newer diver. And I'll always remember sort of going down the mooring line and seeing the Robert Gaskin kind of appear out of the green mist. Very cool. Okay, so I was starting to put a lot of time in and dives every month, trying to become a better diver, working on the platform, working on my core skills, because obviously they needed a bit of work, but overall just trying to become a solid, self-reliant diver and becoming one with my pony tank. Because I knew the eventual mission was to make the shore dive out to the Gaskin a reality. And so I was doing a lot of charter dives, including the Gaskin, just trying to get all of the experience diving with a pony tank that I could get. And you can see in this photo, which is actually a dive on the Gaskin, that there is only one self-reliant diver in that dive group. And once I got comfortable diving with the pony tank, of course, I wanted to test it. And here's a photo of me actually testing it, switching over to the pony tank before making my ascent back up from the Gaskin to the boat. I'll say on this photo, my trim is still a little whacked in terms of all these things hanging off, but at least horizontal positioning is starting to improve. And now that I had done the Gaskin charter a bunch of times and I felt familiar with the Gaskin wreck itself, I was like, all right, now it's time to focus on making this shore dive happen. And after a few practice runs to make sure I could always find the line at the back of Centeen Park, I decided that August 21st, 2020 was going to be the day that I get to visit the Gaskin from shore. I was pretty excited. Okay, quick question. Your dive season just started. I'd love to hear what is your shakedown approach to ensure that you are scraping off the dive rust. Put your comments below, and of course, I'll take a look. And the day arrives, equipment checks, done. Gas plans are in place, written on my wrist slates. SPG checkpoints to make sure that I'm on track along the dive. Pony tank comfort level was now in place. And then the big reel. Yes, the big reel was a great idea from one of our local experienced dive masters who was always helping me back in the day. Shout out to John Rombaus. He was like, hey, Dave, if you're going to run from shore to the Gaskin, make sure take a reel and then at the 53-foot pin, run the reel from the pin to the front of the Gaskin. That way, on the way back, you don't have to find some small pin. You can just run your reel back, find the pin, and head home safely. I was like, dude, that's a freaking great idea. I'm on it. And off we went. Found the line at the back of the park, no problem. Started making our way down the line, hit the 43-foot rock, which is about halfway. More on that rock a little bit later. And just past that rock is where the line turns sort of upstream, and this is where the stronger current will hit you. And today the current was pretty strong, but at the same time, very manageable. I keep making my way up the line, and at the 50-foot mark, I spot a little lamppost, and I was like, oh, interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And then I saw it. I saw the 53-foot pin. I mean, the current is coming, it's still manageable, but I am now at the 53-foot pin, and I was like, wow, I made it to the end of the line. And now I'm looking, because I'm looking south, and I'm like, come on, give me at least the glimpse of the Gaskin shape so that I can at least be reassured that it exists. I know it's out there, but I just can't visually see it because of the visibility. All I'm looking at is the green mist, and it is just staring back at me. And then I was like, oh, the big reel. That's right. Let me take the big reel off, deploy it around the pin, and make my way to try and find the gasket. Apparently, it's 50, 60 feet away. And just as I'm starting to secure it around the pin, a little voice in the back of my head said, hey, Dave, it's been a pretty good day today. Like, we made it to the 53-foot pin. It's probably time we should head home. And just like that, my Gaskin mission was over. The reel goes back on the D-ring, and we head on back to the park. And I will say that the drift back, because now I'm with the current, was actually pretty fun. But I'll tell you what, that hour drive back home that day felt a whole lot longer. And the entire time I was just saying, Dave, you chickened out. I mean, that's just what it is. You chickened out. But the good news is I had a plan. I made it all the way to the 53-foot pin. My SPG checks were actually under plan, so that was good. And so now I was really ready to make a second attempt the next day. August 22nd, 7:15 a.m., and I am back 53 feet under the St. Lawrence, looking at the metal pin. Staring into the green mist, it is time to right the wrong. Big reel deployed, compass bearing acquired, and I head south against the current, which should have been the first sign, by the way. Counting to myself every 10-foot Sharpie marker line on the reel as it's deploying out, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet, 60, 70, 80, and 90 feet away from the pin, and still no Gaskin. What the f***? I look at my computer and the depth is 68 feet. And I'm like, man, something is not right. As I'm hovering there trying to figure things out, what I didn't realize was the river was now starting to push me east. And suddenly I ran into this massive, dark object. I mean, the dive gods must have been watching me and said, hey, let's just give this guy a win today, because there it was looming over me, the Robert Gaskin. Clearly, I had taken too much of an aggressive compass bearing heading upstream, completely missing the Robert Gaskin. But who cared? I headed back to the bow, I did a quick touch and go hello, and made my way back to the pin and headed home. Mission complete. Quick question for all the divers watching. Out of all the dives that you've done, what is the one dive that you had to build up to? Put your comments below. I'm looking forward to seeing the responses. Well, after many years of diving this shore dive out to the Gaskin in a variety of dive kits, single tank pony, back mounted doubles, side mount, and of course, my Liberty CCR Heavy back mounted configuration. It has now become the dive that always kicks off my dive season once I've taken the time to shake off any off-season dive rust. And so here we are on Sunday, April 27th, escaping under the St. Lawrence and getting to visit an old friend. For me, it's just a dive that never gets old, and seeing the Gaskin appear out of the green mist is always extremely cool. I hope you enjoy the dive. Okay, we make our way down the slope at Centeen Park, and we're going to come across the platform, which of course I've spent a ton of hours at in my time. Over there we have the circle of commemorative statues, and now we start to make our way through the back of the scuba park to the edge, where we should find the Gaskin line. I'm a creature of habit, and somehow I always end up swimming through the letter D. You can see we have a pipe and a line, and there's the line to the Gaskin, which we start to follow. 41 feet, and it's a nice gentle slope out to about 60 feet. There's our 43-foot rock, where I always take about a 1-minute break just to assess and make sure everything feels good. And if it does, off we go. And you can see here, I'm in the slow lane getting passed by the DPVers. There's the lamppost, small speedboat on the left, and there is the 53-foot pin. But guess what? It's actually 56 feet today because the river is actually a little higher these days. From there, we sort of take our bearing and head on across the gap, and there is the Gaskin coming to life with a big anchor in front. We always seem to make our way down the east side of the Gaskin. There is a giant hole on the east side by the stern. There it is. Making our way through and started doing a tour through the Gaskin. And you can see today visibility is a great day. So as we make our way back towards the bow, this is where that pontoon hit and sort of crushed open a big hole in the bow. And now we head on out and we go find that small speedboat that we saw on the left. We do a little bit of 2026 dive season writing. And we're making the decision to say, hey, do we feel good enough to go find the ghost boats? And so we drift east. We should see a scuba tank coming up here pretty soon, and there it is. I don't know why there is a scuba tank on a stick. And as we drift east, here is ghost boat number 1, somewhere between 51 and 52 feet. And this is the start of the ghost boat circuit. There's the line as we start to drift east, and slowly we'll come up on ghost boat number 2, which is right there. Heading now a little northwest, there's ghost boat number 3, which is the biggest ghost boat, and we've kind of decorated it with some skulls and some stuff inside. It makes a cool night dive and definitely a Halloween dive. And as we take a quick poke inside, I'll put the dive light on, and you can see that we have a large skull and looks like a Frankenstein head that I put in there. And now we're following the line back, and just like that, we're at the edge of the park, in through the D. We should see the hand shortly after this. And now we're essentially making our way back towards the platform. And just like that, our 60-minute dive is done. I hope you enjoyed. And just like that, we've made it to the end of another 613 dive video. And if you've made it this far, I'm impressed. And let me apologize for your video torture. As always, I would love to see feedback, comments, likes, and subscribes if you feel the content has delivered. It is the only way a small YouTube channel like this can continue to grow. And again, shout out to all the amazing support that we've gotten for our Self-Reliant Diver video. It's great to see all of the interest in self-reliant diving. I'm Diver Dave. Practice hard, dive safe. Take care. Man, I didn't know the Gaskin was that old. 1863? Wow. There's a lot going on in that intro. I mean, flashes and sounds and explosions and gas gauges. I mean, wow, it was all over the place. I wound up my wheel. It's late. Come on. That photo is actually pretty comical to me because that's a 4mm, 5mm wetsuit. Well, I'm pointing here. You're not Diver Dave. And I swore back then that I would never have to become a dry suit diver. Like, I'm Diver Dave. And just like that, we are at the end of another 613 dive video.